Right, we're going to look at simple interest. And this is a particular kind of interest with special features. So let's have a look. When you borrow money, you have to repay the original amount that you borrow plus interest. Now, the amount of interest you repay is a percentage of the amount that you owe the bank. How is simple interest different to that? Simple interest is calculated on the initial amount borrowed. So it's not based on the amount that you owe, because as you repay a loan, the amount that you owe reduces, and that means the interest you repay also reduces because it's being calculated on whatever you owe the bank. So if you've paid off half your loan, the interest is calculated on the half of the loan that you owe the bank. Simple interest is different though. Simple interest is calculated on the initial amount borrowed. So it doesn't matter how much you repay. The simple interest is calculated on what you borrowed in the beginning. Now, what about for investments, for simple interest investments? Let's have a look. People who invest money in a bank or other financial institution often earn extra money called interest. It is usually a percentage of the current balance in the account. So that means as your savings goes up, the interest is calculated on that increasing amount. Simple interest is different to that. Simple interest will be calculated on the initial amount invested. So whatever money that you put into your bank account at the beginning, that's the amount that they calculate the interest on. It's not very common, but that is one of the types of interest, simple interest. Now, simple interest is also called flat rate interest. And because it's calculated on the initial amount invested or borrowed, it's the same amount every year. So the amount of simple interest you earn every year or have to repay every year is always the same because it's based on the initial amount. Okay. Now let's have a look at some terminology. PA means per annum, which means per year. So here's a little ad as an example. The ING Savings Maximiser, 10% per annum for new customers on balances of up to 250,000. Okay, so that means the interest rate is 10%. So if that was simple interest, and let's just say you deposited $2,000, then 10% of that would be $200. And every year that means the interest you earn would be $200 of interest. So let's have a look at first example. $5,000 is invested at 6% per annum, simple interest for 3 years. As soon as you see that word simple interest, it means that the interest is calculated on the original amount. So let's have a look. 6% per year is the interest. So for the first one, we're going to have the interest for the first year will be 6% of $5,000. Okay, so calculate that. 6%, 6 shift percent times $5,000. That's $300. Now, if you're wondering what calculator keys you press a 6, obviously. Then on your calculator, you have the shift button. And the reason you're pressing the shift button is to put the percentage button into your calculations. Okay, and then you can press multiply 5,000 and then equals the equals button. Okay, so they're the calculator keys. Now let's look at, so in your first year, you earn $300 interest through the investment. For the second year, it's also 6% of 5,000 because it's based on what you had in the bank at the beginning. Okay, so that's also going to be $300. And then for the third year, same thing, 6% of 5,000. So it's always based on the original amount. Okay, so the total interest earned will be 3 lots of $300, which is just $900. Okay, so that's how much interest you've earned. That means if you looked in your bank account would be the $5,000 that you deposited plus the $900 interest that you've earned after the 3 years. So that means in your bank account you would have $5,900. Okay. So the key point about simple interest is it's always based on the original amount that you deposit. That means the amount of interest you earn, as you can see, is the same every single year. First year, second year, third year. The interest we earned, the amount of interest we earned is the same every single year for simple interest. Okay, now let's look at a formula for simple interest. We've got, from the previous example, we can see that the total interest earned is going to be 6% of the $5,000, right? Right, and that'll be for 1 year, won't it? 6% of 5,000. But the example had 3 years in it, so we're going to times that by 3. Okay. If you work that out, you're going to get your $900 of interest that we had from before. All right. So how can we use that to work out a formula? So let's have a look. The 6%, we're going to call that our interest rate, R. R for interest rate. Of means multiply, so I'm going to put a little time sign there. The 5,000 is the initial amount. We call that the principal. Okay. So that's going to be P. And 3 is a number of years. We're going to call that the time. So T for that. So you can see that the formula for calculating simple interest is the interest rate times the principal times the time. And that'll give you the total amount of interest for your investment. Now, we can rearrange those letters. Instead of having R at the front, we can have P at the front. R and then C. Yeah. Okay, so you've got I equals PRT. So now I is the interest. So let's write this down. I is the interest. In fact, it's the total interest that you're going to earn in your investment. P is the principal. R is the interest rate. Right, as a percentage. And T is the time. Okay, for the investment or the loan. All right, so let's have a look at an example now using that formula. Okay, so same amount this time. We've got $5,000 invested in Sunbank at 2.5% per annum for 4 years. Find the simple interest. As soon as I say that, you're going to write down the formula, which is I equals P R T. Now, principal is $5,000. Interest rate is 2.5%. And then time is 4 years. Okay, so we work that out. $5,000 times 2.5% times 4 should get $500. Okay, so what is the total value of the investment after 4 years? Well, the total value will be the initial amount, which is the $5,000, plus the $500 interest, which is just $5,500. Okay, I'll just fix that 5 up there. Looks a bit like a 6. There we go. All right, now the hashtag example is for you to have a go. So pause the video and then see if you can get this question right. Okay, so the first thing to do is simple interest. I'm going to write down the formula, I equals PRT. Right? Now, principal is $2,000. Right? 3% per annum is my interest rate, so that's 3% times, and then 3 years. Okay, so let's work that out on the calculator. So you're going to go $2,000 times 3 shift percent times 3 equals $180. So the total value of the investment will be $2,000 plus the $180 interest that you've earned. So that means in your account, you've got $2,180. Okay, let's just fix that 8 up there. It should be an 8. Here we go. All right, how did you go? All right, so let's have a look at some other questions now. So we've got our formula here, R equals PRT, which we established. Now, there's something we've got to be aware of here. The interest rate and the time must have the same units of time. So that means if R is a yearly interest rate, then T must be in years, right? And vice versa. If R is a monthly interest rate, then T must be in months, okay? So let's have a look. First question, find the simple interest earned on each of these investments, correct to the nearest cent. Okay, so simple interest, so I'm going to write down my formula again, I equals P R T. Now it's $2,000 again, times by the interest rate, which is 15.5%, times. Now, PA means per annum or per year, which means the interest rate is a yearly interest rate. However, we are given the time period as months. This is not a full year. So we've got to convert the months into years. So obviously 8 months is not a full year, it's a fraction of a year. So we're going to divide the months by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So that'll give me the interest. So let's work that out. So $2,000 times by 15.5% times by 8 over 12 should get $206.67. Okay, so let's try part B now. Part B, this time we've got a yearly interest rate again, but this time it's days. So write the formula down again, I equals PRT, and then $50,000 times 18.3% times, now 200 days is not a full year, it's a fraction of a year, so 200, divide that by 365, because there's 365 days in a year. Put that into your calculator, 50,000 times by 18.3 shift percent times 200 on 365 equals, you'll have to press your SD key on your calculator to convert it to a decimal. And then that gives you 5,013 dollars, and then actually it should be 70 cents, not 69 cents. 70 cents, that should be a 70 there to the nearest cent. Okay. All right, so what I'd like you to do now is to pause the video and have a go at the hashtag question. All right, you got the answer in brackets, so you better self-check. Okay, so simple interest, let's do this one. So yeah, make sure you pause the video so you can have a go at the question. You've got $9,750 invested, that's your principal, times by your interest rate, which is 14.3%, times by, that's 16 weeks. So 16, it's 52 weeks in a year. So 16 over 52. And let's work it out. 9750 times 14.3 shift percent times 16 on 52. Okay, so $429 there. Exactly. Okay, so that's the interest you've earned on top of the investment. Okay. All right, we've got some harder questions here. So now I'll go through those at the beginning of the next lesson, maybe, or actually might do them. There's only 3 of them, so yeah. So let's do these now. Harder questions. So it says after 3 years, an investment of $1,000 has earned $120 in interest. What is the annual interest rate? So I equals PRT, right? Now, it doesn't tell me it's simple interest, but you're going to assume that because that's what the lesson's about. So now, it tells me I've earned $120 interest. So here's my formula, if you like, I equals PRT. So interest is equal to 120. Now, it tells me the amount invested, P, is $1,000. Okay, these are all dollars here. It tells me that it was for 3 years, so I know that T is equal to 3 years. Now I already know what my answer is, but I've got to show how to get that. Now, what it doesn't tell me is it doesn't tell me what the interest rate is, R. So this is what you've got to find the R. So we're going to substitute into the formula. So let's do that. So 120 is the I part. Principal is 1,000 times by R times by T, which is 3. Now, I'm going to simplify this. 1,000 times 3 is 3,000. So I'm going to have 120 equals 3,000 times R. Okay, now I've got to get the R by itself. So I'm going to divide through by the 3,000. Okay, divide through by the 3,000. And then cancel that. That leaves you with the R by itself. And then 120 divided by 3,000 is 0.04. So that's your answer, but as a decimal. Now, interest rates are typically written as a percentage. If I was to convert that to a percentage, I would just have to times that by 100. Okay? And then 0.04 times 100 is just 4. Now, you'd have to write down 4%. Okay, because 4% is 0.04. So that's your answer there. Okay, so times by 100, and don't forget to put the percent sign. All right, let's have a look at question 2. Now, this time, for how long will $20,000 need to be invested to earn $150 in interest if the interest rate is 3.5% per annum? Okay, and this question, it says for how long? That means we're finding time. So let's write down what we're given first. We know that I is equal to P R T. And from the question, we know we're finding T. Now, the interest they tell you is $150. The principal is 20,000. The interest rate is 3.5%. And the time, well, we don't know that yet. So now let's simplify that. So we're just going to go 20,000 times 3.5% to simplify that part. Let's do that. 20,000 times 3.5 shift percent equals, should get 700. It won't always be a nice little neat number like that, but in this case it is. And then to get the T by itself, you're going to divide through by 700. cancel that. That's going to give you, oops. All right, so it's going to give you t is equal to, now 150 divided by 700 is, as a fraction, I'm going to keep it as a fraction here, 3 over 14, because that's the exact answer. Now that's going to be years. How do I know it's years? It's because the interest rate here was per annum. Okay, per annum. Per annum means per year. So this is 3/14 of a year, which is obviously not a full year. Now, it says, I guess technically, we've answered our question, 3/14 of a year, but let's see how we get the days. Now, we know there's 365 days in a year, so to convert this to days, I'm just going to times by 365. Okay, so times by 365, it's going to be 78.2 days. Now, in a job, you don't work 78.2 days. You either work 78 days or 79 days. So the same thing for your money. Your money is either is counted in terms of complete number of days. So the answer is either going to be 78 days or 79 days. Now, if we want to earn 20,000, so if you want to earn $150 interest, 78 days will not be enough to earn $150 in interest. Okay, so if you put 78 days into your calculations, you won't get 150, won't be enough. So we need to go up to the next highest amount, because 78 is a little bit less than 78.2. So 79 days, you're going to earn at least $150 interest, maybe a little bit more. So the answer for this one is 79 days. Okay. All right. Now, last question. Jerry's investment grew to $12,080 from $9,000 over 3 years. Find the interest. Well, the interest is the extra amount you earn. So we're actually not going to use the formula. We're just going to say, well, look, if that's how much his investment was worth after 3 years, and that's how much he put into the investment, the difference between those two will be the interest. Okay, so the interest in this case will be $12,080 minus 9,000, which is just $3,080. So if we're going to work out the annual rate of interest, I'll just start off by writing our formula down, I equals PRT. The interest we've already calculated is 3,080. The principal is 9,000. That's how much was deposited in the beginning. The interest rate we are trying to find, so we'll call that R. Time is 3 years. Okay. Now you're going to multiply the 9,000 by the 3. So you're going to get 3,080 is equal to 27,000 times R. Okay. Now, we want to get the R by itself. So what you're going to do next is divide through by the 27,000. Okay. Here we go. So that's going to cancel that. Now let's work it out. 3,080 divided by 27,000. Should get 0.114. So you're going to get 0.11407, and it keeps going. So that's equal to R. Now, what do we want? We want the interest rate as a percentage. So I'm going to times this by 100. Okay. That's going to give you R is equal to 1 decimal point, 11.4, and don't forget to put the percent sign. Okay, and that's it.